Welcome back to part 2, Cuss N Discuss on the Global Horse Network of mental toughness. So last time we left off promising you that we would start talking about superstitions. So you want to give us a little bit of an intro to that?
You know, I mean, there's lots of superstitions in the horse world, right? Like yellow shirts. Like you don't wear a yellow shirt, right?
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some people have lucky
What's wrong
socks.
with yellow shirts?
Lucky, it's just bad luck. So very rarely do you
That's
ever.
good to know.
Yeah,
I live in Texas.
I ever get to show a horse, I'm wearing a yellow shirt.
Yeah.
I might even wear yellow pants.
I mean, here's the thing: you don't want to stack the odds against yourself.
Prove
You know what
to
I mean?
you guys that you do not need to be thinking that way.
As my old help would say, maybe yes, maybe no. Right?
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to
You
challenge you the next horse show. Wear a yellow shirt.
Now when we did the stand up slide stop deal, right? Like I had bought some socks that had little Superman guys on it.
Yeah.
And I thought those would be my lucky socks. And it didn't work out how I liked, so I got rid of the socks.
Oh.
Not saying it's a superstition, but you know what I mean? Like, don't want to necessarily go down that path again if I don't have to.
Let me just ask you, what makes you think it had to do with the socks? How does that impact the way you're showing that horse and that outcome?
Well, I mean, I hoped it was going to have a good, outcome because they were Superman socks, right? But on the flip side,
did you show them to the horse?
I probably did.
Okay, so he knew they were Superman
yes,
socks.
but he didn't
Or
care.
she, or
He
whatever.
didn't care either.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
So I ended up not doing as well as I thought, right? So the only thing I changed, because I wear the pants, I wear the shirt. The only thing I had on different was socks, right? If I usually wear white ones, today I had Superman socks on. Superman failed me. So
I love how
I
we're
don't wear
making
'em.
fun of him and he just keeps going.
Hey, you ask. I'm telling you. It's a bad gig.
I would think it would be for me, that would be a really bad gig to get into, and trying to control the outcome by something that is material.
I know, but if you get the 1% advantage because you have Superman socks on, that's all the better. But it didn't work.
Shocking.
Your theory
Now Superman
did that
sock
not
sales.
work?
Superman sock sales are going through the floor now. You know what I mean?
How did that not work? I just can't.
I told you I had issues.
Don't look at me. This philosophy.
It's people like this why I have a job. Job security for life with guys like this.
I mean,
seriously.
So what do you
try to
tell them?
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you don't have Superman socks to fall back on, what do I need to do to figure out these problems? You know, we're talking about superstitions and things that go on in the horse world. Like, I mean, how do we? Because people have them.
I know,
You
it's big in like hockey and baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen it before.
Oh, it is. It truly is. And I'll make fun of them just as much as I'm making fun of you. Because at the end of the day, if you truly believe that the outcome of a performance has to do with what you're wearing, guess what? It's not what you're wearing. It's what you think about what you're wearing.
Right. The
You
placebo
are
effect.
setting that up, and the placebo
But
effect
if you
is
make it-
real for a reason.
If you make it work, right?
That's, well, yes and no, right? Because at the end of the day, how you're showing your horse should have nothing to do with what you're wearing on your body or what color it is. And if you're basing your confidence on that, let's go back to segment 1 and one of those 3 big factors of what's going to help you be successful. And not one of those had anything to do with Superman socks or a yellow shirt.
I breathe well. Does that count?
Yeah,
But I bet your self-talk and your confidence was probably like, oh, I'm wearing a yellow shirt. Or I guess for you, oh, Superman socks, this is going to do it. So if you were focused on the Superman socks, you weren't focused on showing your horse very well.
Touche. You know?
Okay.
This is why you're here, right? Yeah, I mean, I said it. I said I had some funk.
That's a fun.
You know what I mean?
That's a funk. That's a funk. That's a funk.
It is.
So really, it's all about training and understanding that you can be your best self regardless of Superman socks, right? You don't need to have those in order to be your best self, right? I'm curious. I want to go back to, you mentioned you think it's just men, which I'm totally going to disagree with you on that, but why? Why do you think it's just men?
Because when I hear about it, like in other sports, like adaptive sports, it's usually men. I've never talked to a female who said, "Oh, I have lucky underwear that I don't wash."
Well, females wash their underwear.
Yeah, but guys are like, "Oh no, you can't wash the socks, or you can't wash this or that." No, but it'll take the good juju off it. And I'm like, that's disgusting. So I don't see that a lot in females.
Okay.
Or people like, there might be like a ritual, which I don't think is a bad thing. That's probably the
here
wrong
we go.
word.
That's where I was going to get to.
That's the wrong word.
Routine.
Routine. A
Yes.
routine, you know, like, oh, to perform my best, I need to do this, and this step. But I haven't really heard a lot of women that have Lucky socks or lucky
Okay, so it's just
underwear.
experience you haven't.
Yeah.
Yes, women do have superstitions as well. So let's just put that out there.
Okay.
So whether you're a man or a woman, if this is something that you are struggling with, it's definitely something to work through. So as Lia was just mentioning, there are other terms and other things that we do. And one of the things we do promote is a pre-performance routine.
Yes.
Which, if it can get dangerous and get into a ritual, which is still okay, but the superstition's really bad. That's when you've gone too far. So a superstition is essentially when you believe this thing has to happen or doesn't have to happen, or you wear this or you don't wear that, and the outcome is 100% based on that. Right? And let's be honest, we can sit here in the kitchen and talk about how does it really depend on the socks?
Or is it?
Could I put on Superman socks? I've never shown a horse. Could I put on Superman socks and I can go out there and win?
Possibly. I mean, there's always the possibility.
Oh my word! I'm gonna have to start putting money in the swear jar here.
I know.
Dealing with this guy.
Well,
Okay, but realistically,
but
there's skill
okay.
involved, right?
There
You
is.
gotta know
Okay,
what
but,
you're doing.
But where do you draw the line with, like you say, a ritual
Okay.
routine? Okay?
Okay.
So if that gets out of whack,
Okay.
then isn't that easy enough to derail your performance
All right,
because you're
here
so
we go.
wrapped up in it?
Yep, so here we go. That's where you're getting into a ritual. So a routine is basically a physical and a mental. That's the piece that most people don't do, is that mental piece. The same thing you do every single time. So like you warm up a certain way. Some people want to, if we're talking about different sports and things like that, that's simple. A lot of people warm up the exact same way. Physically, what would you do? What would be a warm up for?
I mean, like I like to sometimes bend over and almost touch my toes because I
Okay.
can't fully.
So you're stretching your hamstrings?
Yeah,
a
for
little
sure.
bit?
And then
Okay.
and then whenever I'm zipping up my shaps, I like to zip the fringe in it and cuss a little bit.
Okay.
And then
Does your horse have a pre-routine? I'm not being flippant, but I
Yep.
mean, do you do things with the horse that is a routine or something
Like to
superstitious
get it
on the
warmed
horse?
up.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
Be
but-
careful. Don't interchange those terms. That's
Yeah,
going to confuse
because
people.
because
Not
basically,
routine or superstition.
like what I'm gonna do before I'm ready to show, as I'm gonna get on, I'm gonna do the same things that I have built at home, right?
Right.
And make sure that I have all those.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you do a certain order, right? Because you want to have that
There you go.
Yeah.
Familiarity.
There you go.
Yep.
It's easy for some to say, right? you want to have that when you go. So I mean, like I always make sure that once I get on the horse, like I don't never zip my shaps all the way up.
What's a shap?
They're like chaps to northern people.
Oh, those leather things. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Valid question.
There's a visual.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now, because I hate to have folds in my jeans, right? And
Because it's uncomfortable.
for sure, yeah,
Okay.
and it'll rub sores on you or whatever, right? So
Yep.
I always don't zip my shaps all the way up, and I get on, and I have whoever's helping me, pull my pant legs down
Yep.
on my
Okay.
jeans,
There we
right,
go.
and then zip the shaps
There we
down. Because then it's hard to go show if you got a bunched up
There you
jean
go.
on your,
Okay,
on your
this
knee,
is
right?
good.
So the whole time I'm
This is
showing,
good.
I'm thinking, the thing's jabbing me in the knee
Right.
because of, right? So I try to do things a certain way. And
Good.
right before we go in, then a little tech tip that you guys probably don't know, but is that it's not cool to have your hat blow off when you're showing, right? And just short of wearing, the stampede string,
Yeah.
right, which is classy in some arenas, but not necessarily in the reining pin, is it will take most of these hats have a leather sweatband,
Okay.
right? So what we'll do is buy white rain, like you probably grew up using white
Yeah.
rain,
Oh, yeah.
back when you had
Oh,
big
yeah.
hair,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Hairspray?
Yeah, the white rain
Oh, yeah.
hairspray.
For sure.
Okay, so that stuff.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So that stuff is like super glue. Okay.
Oh.
So what you can do is I'll spray it on the inside on the sweatband, right? And I wipe my head down and I'll spray it across my head. So then when I put my hat on, then your hat doesn't blow off. Okay. So now sometimes,
tricks of the trade.
yeah, sometimes now when you go to take your hat off, it'll pull the skin off your forehead nearly. But
you
your
got
hat,
7 layers of skin.
but
You're
your
good.
but your hat doesn't fall off, right?
Right.
I mean, so it's a bad faux pas to have your hat blow off. You know what I mean? And no matter, I mean, not talking about hat stuff, but when you get sweaty, like it's gonna slip. You know what I mean? And you can you can cram it down there. And there's lots of other ways to do those things. But that's just some of the pieces that I like to do. But when we
We're
show
learning cowboy stuff.
I know.
when we showed it a horse for a year-end title for a customer, I mean, it got to the point that like she did everything. So okay, we're 3 horses out. This is when we do this, right? We're so many horses out. This is when we do this, right? And it was just the way that it went because every time we did those things,
It worked out.
we won,
Yeah.
right? So then if we didn't do those things, then it seemed like we lost. Okay, so now what we started to do is like, okay, this is when he horses out, this is what we do, right? And this is my piece of the puzzle, this is her piece of the puzzle, and we put them together, and then generally we had, you know, a good run, and we end up winning a year-end title. But so it's right when you start talking about those routines or those rituals, it was things because it would make everybody comfortable, because we knew this is how it was. The horse was comfortable with it because that's always how we did it. Now, some of my customers in the beginning when we show, and I mean, they may drug test you at the Olympics, right?
Yes,
but
they do.
a lot of horse show peeps, you know what I mean? They hit a little bit of the saucy before you start showing to calm the nerves. Okay?
Yeah.
They can do that? That's a bad idea.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying that people do drugs or not do drugs, but I'm just saying, you know, I know some people who take a little bit of drink before we get started, and it's not uncommon to be drinking at 5 a.m. for some.
Yeah.
To be able to, you know, make it through the rest of the day.
I know a few people are probably going to get into horse showing because of that.
I mean, there are perks.
We can do that there?
Yeah, there are perks and benefits.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, but what
so
you're
now you have
saying
the rituals.
Yeah, no, those are routines.
Routines.
And it was
Okay.
getting into a ritual. So let me give you a good clarification then, because that was a great explanation. So at the beginning, when you were discussing everything you were doing, there was a purpose, right? The white rain, hat can't fly off. I got to pull my pants down to make sure that I don't have the wrinkles in my jeans, right? So those are routines that you do, which is just basically this is the order you do them in, it's what you do, and that's what lets you know you're ready. Right? Now, in sports, we often talk about you're warmed up, but are you ready? Which basically means that you're physically doing all the things that you need to do for your body to be warmed up to compete, but are you mentally ready? And so what you're telling me is there is a deliberate, intentional mental and physical piece of each part of that routine. That's healthy. That's good. That's so the moment you step into that ring, you know you're ready to be there. When it becomes a problem is when it becomes a ritual, starts to become a problem. Superstition's the biggest problem. So ritual is when, we got to do them in this order at this time, or it's going to have an impact on the outcome. But it's not to the point where if you forgot your white rain, you're not going to compete, because what's the point?
Right.
You can still figure it out. It's not ideal, but it's fine, right? That's where we want to leave it. That's a routine. That's good. That's healthy. But the ritual becomes, it has to be at this time. And oh my gosh, we're 2 minutes late. Oh, now what are we going to do? And if you're still somewhat okay, then you're more in the ritual phase. But if it's, we might as well not even compete because everything depends on this. And it doesn't. It really doesn't. Okay, if your hat flew off, I'll give you, it would suck. It's not ideal. It's not really what you want to be doing. It's not what you want to happen. But how much does that really impact the performance versus a perception? And, that's a faux pas. It's not supposed to happen. Right? Does it impact a score? Does it impact the horse? Does it impact...
Well, but I think, it becomes a distraction, right?
Only if you allow it, and that's the key. Only if you allow it.
Because, you know, the thing is, I mean, you go from showing to, I lost my hat, right? So then everything, because you're doing things at high speed, right? Stuff happens so quick.
Yeah, so here's what you do.
Get caught up.
Here's what you do is you have that moment, there went my hat. Because of course you're going to have that moment. You're going to have that recognition. It's not like you're not going to notice. Of course you're going to notice. But then you train your brain to immediately come back to whatever it is that you're doing. You train it to immediately come right back in.
Right.
That's mental toughness. I call it getting stuck in the suck. So something happens in performance that just sucks. Like you're going to notice it. You're going to be like, oh man, that sucks. Now embrace the suck, but don't get stuck in the suck.
Right.
So you embrace it by saying, oh man, well, that sucks. There went my hat. Okay, what's going on now? And getting your head right back into it, getting your head right back into what you're doing. Because if your head is still with your hat, you're screwed.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if we have a shot cycle, which I'm sure if you hunt, you have the whole shot cycle. I can do that perfectly and still miss the whole darn target. Missed the whole target. So I can either go, I'm done. That's 10 points, or whatever. Or I'm going to embrace it, I'm going to keep going keep going all the way to the end because it isn't over. You don't know. Anything can happen between, but that's an archery thing where people like freak out when they miss the target. All right, I missed it. What's next? Next arrow.
Next arrow.
But now do you think that, so like you have that problem, you can condition yourself into being a quitter?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Most people actually do that. They're done. They just throw it then.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you're getting ready for the warm-up show. Like I said, you went past, you've got your routine, everything is good, but as soon as it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, you just give up.
Athletes or performers would rather quit than lose, even if it's mental quitting.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But
that's a
mentally tough athletes don't quit, ever.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, but we know we talked about in the beginning, you know, when I grew up racing bicycles and all those things. I mean, when you're physically, everybody's trained the same. Okay, I mean, genetically speaking, there's going to be some that's going to be superior, but as a whole, for the most part, I mean, you know, when you're at a high level, everybody can pedal bikes on the same level, right?
Yeah.
So then it became, to me, what was fascinating was, why did this guy win over this one? You know what I mean? So being able to, like you say, you know, embrace the suck, right? Because you got to know that next guy's hurting, right? Or like we said, you know, showing is nothing but crisis management.
Yeah.
So you're always in some kind of a crap storm, regardless of who you are, right? And it's how you handle that crap storm that makes it work. And, you know, like you said, like, you know, missing the target. Or, you know, you going in there and maybe you have a half-point penalty for an overspin or an underspin or something, right? Is that you don't completely give up because, you know, you have to, I think, get yourself rewired so where you can go to now, okay, if I can plus half this next thing, then I'm back to zero, right? Or where I was at, not thinking that, okay, I'm already behind by this.
And you
round.
don't know what's going to happen with the other people that are there. But this is when that happens, when somebody has a big mess up, I don't think they do it consciously, but they're either going to have a physical injury or an equipment failure.
In archery.
In archery, because they'd rather quit than lose.
Yeah.
You'll see that even in tennis when they look at their racket because they missed the ball. Like, what? They're going to make a hole in the middle of the racket?
Right. Yep.
It isn't the equipment. It's okay. It's, you know, you missed the ball or you missed the target or whatever. You had a misfire. What are you going to do? Mentally tough athletes keep going. And that's when the win comes.
Yeah.
You're sticking with it.
Well, I mean, you know, but with you talking about having coaches, right, and you coaching, you know, Olympic athletes and all those things, I mean, I think it's important to understand that, like, everybody still needs a coach, right? Just because you're there doesn't mean that you're not getting any help anymore. You know, I mean, like, the top guys, at least, you know, they'll go ride with each other. And you'll do those things. And if you find the guys that really want you to be successful, I mean, they're going to really, truly help you, right? But there's some that are going to sabotage you because they're worried or they're scared of you or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
so
exactly. They feel threatened in some way if they're sabotaging. There's no doubt.
Right.
Yeah. But I want to go back. I want to give you a formula that I think might be helpful for everybody in those circumstances. Okay. And this is just out there. You can absolutely Google this and find it, but I think it's really relevant here. So I'll just bring it up and then people can Google it and find out more information. But it's E plus R equals O, which is event plus response equals outcome. Most of us try to control the event because we want the outcome, right? So you want to win, you want to get full points, you want, you know, whatever it might be, but an event has happened. So like you were saying, the horse didn't do a complete turn or your hat blew off, whatever. An event has happened. If your mind gets focused on that event, that's going to influence the outcome and probably not in a way that's going to be productive and beneficial for you, right? But yet that's where our brains get stuck on the time of the event. Oh my gosh, what does this mean? I missed the target. Now it means I'm going to lose. I might as well give up. The key factor is your response, that R factor. Yes. How do you respond to any event? And how you respond to any event is going to influence the outcome. And so if you can truly get your mind focused on your response to any event, and that can go back to what we were talking about in the first segment of this, that if-then formula. How will I respond? And if you choose your response in a deliberate manner, you don't just default to freaking out or giving up or whatever it might be. If you choose your response very deliberately and you train that response very deliberately, then you can influence the outcome. No outcome's guaranteed. You can do everything right and still not win. Right. Somebody else did better. Right. That's the reality of anything that we're talking about in life. But you can at least have a really positive impact on that outcome, and then maybe walk away saying, you know what, I'm actually proud of the way I showed today. I did everything I could do. I still have more to learn. I can still improve and get better, but I'm pretty proud of what I did. And it all comes down to that R factor.
And one time you identified there's a difference between reacting and responding.
Yes.
You know, to the event. Are you reacting or are you responding? Mm-hmm. Are you in control? Which is a self-confidence thing. I got this. Exactly. Might not be a deal, but I got this. Mental toughness.
Yeah. Right. A lot of times that reaction is just that instant, like how you would normally, and you just stick with that. Let's like getting stuck in the suck.
Yes.
Versus choosing how you will respond to the things that happen.
And that only happens if you practice,
gotta practice
every day.
it.
Every day
Right.
when you practice. It's
So
not-
practice your hat getting blown off. Like
Right,
you've
right.
got your white
Yeah.
rain and you're in
Yeah.
the arena and it blows
Right.
off. Practice that.
Right.
Have somebody bring a fan if you need to, right? It's Texas. You need fans around
sure.
here anyway.
Yeah.
Right? And you keep going. Like practice those things as much as you can so you can practice that response and train that response.
Now, I mean, when you're getting ready to shoot, I mean, when, say you're sleeping, okay, or before you go sleep, right? I mean, are you doing these things in your head, right? Because like a lot of horse training, right, becomes
Yes.
muscle memory kind of a thing, right?
Yes.
And you don't do it because you think about it. You just do it because that's what you do, right? Because these circumstances happen and you just innately do it, okay?
Right.
And, I know, because like I said, I grew up racing bikes, right? And you talk about breathing. So, I mean, I've always been very good because I can stomach breathe, right? Or your
Right.
diaphragm, because
Yeah.
that's just how I've always done it, right? So I think a lot of the nerve part I don't have so much of an issue with because I can always breathe deep, right? But I've always done it because every night before I go to bed, you know what I mean? Like I try to physically suck in as much air as I can, right? And then focus on the exhaling, right? And doing those things because like you can learn to control
Your
that
blood
part of it, right?
Blood pressure and heart rate right
yeah,
there.
yeah. And I mean, I think that will help keep you focused, right? That
Right.
that you don't you don't get all bent out of shape because of things. Like I said, because if you're shallow breathing and you get
Yes.
nervous, I mean, then that causes a whole host of other problems, right? But it's something that you can do at night. Like I said, I mean, because every night before I go to bed, I mean, like while I'm laying in bed, right? Like I'm breathing just because I've done it for 30 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what works in my in my head, right?
Yeah.
And you want to have all of the pieces put together when you're showing. And most of the time, most of us when we're going to show, I mean, we're not going to be in a world championships or right at the Olympics, where the whole world's looking at you. I mean, for the most part, I mean, you're at a horse show. I mean,
Yeah.
there may be 1,000 people in the stands,
Yeah.
and I mean, and that's
But it's important to you.
that's that.
That's right.
It
That's
is,
key.
right? But it's you I think you have yourself in that position to where, like you say, right, you can control that stuff because it's just something easy as breathing, right? And running those things. And I know I say when I was younger, but when I was younger, I rode a lot of horses in my sleep. Like I would wake myself up.
So you visualization was
Yeah,
really good.
yeah,
That's
and
important.
I mean, so I don't know if that's part of my funk today, right? Because I don't ride as many horses in my sleep as I used to. You know what I mean? But like you try to figure out, okay, like this one's not turning the way you want, or this one's not stopping the way you want, right? And like you'd be going to bed trying to think of like how all the pieces go together,
Right.
And then you're in that kind of awake but sleep state, you know what I mean? And you jerk yourself
Yes.
like, oh, you know what I mean? And it's is that the place where you need to be on putting these these pieces together? Because I think the most stress that you get, right, is not from everybody else, because for the most part I think everybody wants you to do well,
Right.
I mean, there's going to be a few naysayers that don't want you to do well, but mostly the team that's going to be around you, and I mean everybody wants to see you succeed, so
Yes.
they're going to make those things work. But you can control when you can control that stuff yourself and eliminate all those things,
For me, I cannot visualize very well because I have like 6 squirrels in my brain at any point in time. So
Right.
like closing my eyes, I'm like, oh. But what I do instead of that, I do the breathing at night. That's the only way I can come down enough to relax, is I practice for something going wrong. So I'll practice in the rain, I'll practice in the sun, I'll practice in the morning under the lights, so that, okay, I've done this. People archers get really freaked out in wind and in rain. Oh my gosh, it's windy. Oh, I'll shoot in the wind, and then I'll go into it again. This is a mental thing. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm so wind. Really? This is my backyard. I know how to do this. Do I like shooting in the wind? No. Am I going to tell her that? No.
Right.
Or rain, or heat. For me, heat is a huge issue because I have MS. So like, if I thought about how I'm going to get sick from the heat, I would not be an archer because
Right.
it's always shot in the heat. So
Yeah.
again, just keep practicing. If it can go wrong, or we usually have a bow and a backup bow, and then a release and a backup release. I'll just mix them up. I'll shoot some people say like, that's just my backup bow, this is my primary bow, so that's what they practice with. I switch them out all the time because it's a confidence booster for me. It's like, I know, they should shoot enough that I would be able to get through it. But the visualization, I know is really key for a lot of people, and the breathing, it's just difficult for me to do personally, is to shut that down.
Yeah.
Well, we have about a minute left in this segment, but I'll close this out by saying that visualization, imagery, whatever you want to call it, is incredibly important. It's a foundational skill of what we teach. It's actually the one skill within sports psychology and mental performance coaching that we have the most research on. And it does come back to muscle memory, and I could explain how it all works within your body. If we had some more time, maybe we can start the next segment with that. But it is key for performance. And a lot of people who say they can't visualize things, like, begin by starting with a familiar place, like your bedroom.
Yes.
Close your eyes and think about your bedroom. Picture colors, picture, all the different elements and things that are in a safe space, and then start manipulating that space. Make your bed, unmake your bed. Take a picture off the wall, open a drawer, close a drawer, and then you can work up to performance. But then what Lia is saying as well is really important, and that's actually called mental contrasting, which is the next step in imagery, which is where you start imagining that your hat blew off, and how are you going to handle it? You start imagining that the horse scotched.
Right.
Yes. And how are you going to handle it?
Yeah,
And so you start imagining those things that could go wrong, and you're visualizing your response to it. And that actually does work itself into a muscle memory situation, even though you're just doing it in your head. And that's actually the really cool part, is how it influences your body and your patterning, even though you're just imagining it in your head.
Right.
And maybe we can start the next one with that, because that's it for segment 2, Mental
Yeah.
Toughness, Cuss and Discuss on the Global Horse Network. See you next time.